breaks earlier. I mentioned long-term stress has some effects on the body, and that's where some of this stress symptom checklist comes from. If you have chronic stress, there may be some things like headaches, stomach aches, muscle aches that you might not have associated, or skin rashes. That's a hard thing for me to believe, that a mental health issue could cause your skin to break out, but that can definitely happen. And I want to highlight this. If your kids are feeling stressed, and let's say they don't want to go to school, they have a headache or stomach ache, you may be wondering, is this a real stomach ache or headache, or is it just anxiety about school? And I want to highlight that it can be both. If your doctor ever tells you, I think your headache or your stomach ache or your body aches are caused by anxiety, your doctor isn't telling you your symptoms aren't real. It's all in your head. These are still real physical symptoms that anxiety can cause. And if it's hard to picture that, just picture your muscles tense up if your muscles are tensed up for long periods of time, they can get seized up that way, and that can make your neck kind of stiff and locked up and lead to other problems and headaches. This is just less common, more things happen in the lower half of your body from chronic stress. And the last one is important to highlight: lower ability to fight or recover from illness. So if you push through your stress because you want to keep being able to work, you may get sick and be less able to work. So it's another reason that I am preaching to you, I guess, to catch it early, to not just say, it's just stress, I need to push through it. If it's affecting you, take the breaks early, even if that means not getting as much work done today, so that you don't wind up losing a week of work when you get pneumonia a month down the line. So you've got your stress symptoms checklist handout to look at for yourself, for your personal use. These I think I've highlighted already. I guess the one that I haven't mentioned, this last bullet point: if symptoms happen in yourself or in a family member, even if it's an outburst of anger, forgive yourself or the family member for that, but that doesn't mean saying it's okay. That's my definition of forgiveness, not saying that something's okay, but that you're not going to hold it against the person, but you hold them responsible for, if you're having these anger outbursts, okay, I don't believe that you intended to harm me or harm the kids, but I do expect you to do some counseling, some other self-help, something that will make this anger less likely to burst out like that. Here's some just more elaborate examples of how you can plan ahead to change two things. If you can't change the stress response itself, how anxious you're feeling, how depressed you're feeling, how angry you're feeling, you might still be able to change how much it affects your work, your relationship with your family, to take a moment to calm down. And again, this only works like swatting at the bee if you plan in advance. In the moment, if you feel like yelling, you're just going to yell. And you say, I can't help it, it just comes out. That's why you plan in advance, that when I feel like yelling, I'm going to stop, close my eyes, catch myself, catch the early warning signs of that outburst happening. Maybe you clench your fist right before you yell. So when I clench my fist, that's when I need to catch myself and close off to what's happening and think of something constructive to say. And if I can't, then walk away and let people know that's why I'm walking away, because that's better than me yelling. Anxiety can make us feel like avoiding things. And depression can also make us feel like avoiding everything. So that's a time to maybe take a small break before we need a big one. Drinking is something, a habit, and other kinds of escapism. And the issue, I'm not trying to preach against any particular thing like alcohol. I'm trying to preach against the idea of escape. It's not the amount of drinking that's the issue, it's why you drink. If you're drinking because I can't function without it, or again, whatever the addiction is, it could be video games, gambling. If you're doing this for fun with friends, that's one thing, but if you're doing it because you need to, that's a sign you're getting addicted, maybe without realizing it. The problem with that is you're not giving yourself a chance to learn healthier copings. I need to numb my thoughts, numb these feelings. A harder but more successful strategy is to learn how to manage those thoughts and feelings. And that does take more work. It's not as easy as just knocking yourself out, but it works longer. It gives you capacity, makes you stronger. And then the ideal situation is not just to change how the stress affects your actions, but to change the stress response itself. And this is not a simple process. If you guys were all anxious right now, and I said, calm down, would that magically be like, oh, thanks, Jim Foley, you just made me so calm. I can see why you're a great mental health professional. Calm down really worked. But we do this, right? We just do this, especially with family members. We wish we had this magic wand and said, you could say, calm down. Or don't worry. Oh, wow, you just lifted all the worries out of my mind by telling me not to worry. Usually if you're worrying and someone says, don't worry, you don't listen to everything that comes next, you just feel criticized. Okay, you're saying I'm stupid for worrying. This also applies if someone's feeling depressed. If you say, oh, look at all that you have to be grateful for. That's one of those bits of advice that's out there. Unfortunately, if you say that directly to someone who's feeling depressed, they again feel criticized. You're telling me I'm not grateful enough, I'm not appreciating things. Okay, so now I'm depressed and I'm stupid for being depressed. So it's not that simple. Psychotherapy is an individualized process where you help the person find their own inner resources, their own coping strategies, and it may wind up being gratefulness and other things like that, but it comes better emerging from within to this health-building process of psychotherapy. And you may be able to do some of this on your own. You might not need an external consultant. There's other strategies that you can, each of you may be able to picture your own activity that, and I want you to picture an activity not necessarily that feels the best doing it, but that feels the best after doing it. Picture something that you do that after I do that, I feel better. And it could be work itself. Successfully working it and makes me feel good, about a sense of accomplishment. I said because there's some things that feel good in the moment, like drinking or television, that don't leave you necessarily feeling better afterwards. So picture that when you're choosing your own coping strategy. And here's some general principles, keys that are not easy to implement, but this is especially something to watch for if you employ other people and you want your employees to be healthy, have less stress, and thus be more productive. If they have some sense of choice and control over their actions, some control over some aspects of their job, they're going to be happier than if you micromanage everything that they do. And it's tempting to micromanage. The people who are doing the micromanaging usually don't see it that way. They see it as, I'm making sure everything's done right. But unfortunately, that makes the people working for you not feel trusted, not feel empowered, and they may resist and resent that, even if they agree with you. A sense of belonging or acceptance, anything you can do to make people feel part of a group or do this for yourself. It's one of the reasons that being associated with a church has been associated with positive mental health, is this sense of belonging that it provides, along with the spiritual aspects. And a sense of meaning and purpose is another part of it. If I feel like what I'm doing, the actions that I'm taking every day are meaningful, that this may be milking the cows, but it's part of a bigger sense of purpose of what I'm doing for my family, what I'm doing for myself. If it feels meaningful to you, don't listen to anyone else's reference. You decide for yourself what gives you this. Now, the list that I got this from just said a sense of hope. This is my rephrasing of it, seeing options in the future. It's hard to just get a sense of hope, talk yourself into it. The path to feeling hope, in my experience of working with people, is thinking about options. When people feel suicidal, it's when they think they've run out of options, that I either have to have this path that I had in mind, or there's no other options for me living. And helping someone see other possible options gives someone a sense of hope. And sometimes that may not be the options you're willing to consider. For example, if things are just not working out financially in the business and it's just unpleasant for everybody involved, one of those options that you may not let yourself consider is selling the farm, selling the business, changing how you manage it. You may not be giving yourselves that option, but It's in my experience that considering that, even though people get mad if you bring up that option, just like people going through marital difficulties, you bring up the option of divorce, sometimes that can save the marriage, because if you consider options then and you say, no, I don't want to do that, then suddenly you're not trapped in the marriage, you're choosing to stay in the marriage. Same with the farm, the business. Consider the option of getting out of it, helps you have a full array of options, and then you have back a sense of control over your actions, and when you choose to stay with a sense of hope that I may not be able to picture exactly how things are going to work out, but I'm going to use a sense of hope to say it's worth continuing to try. And this balance of self-reliance, but also an ability to learn from others, helps bounce back from stressful situations.